do I access the online?
If you go, the easiest way is going to go to gatewaytotherockies.com.
Okay.
And then at the very bottom of that landing page is like the calendar schedule. And then the WebEx link will be there.
Okay.
Do I need to log into WebEx?
I don't think you should have to log in.
Or, I mean, not log in. Do you want me to do WebEx from here?
People are gonna be there.
As soon as we're done.
You want to.
That way you don't have to like manage the room.
Sorry, Dr. Shore Miller and others in the room, you must be lonely. Sorry to abandon you.
What do you mean? We're having a great time.
We got all the snacks to ourselves. And then chair, do I call you chair or commissioner chair? Sandy is still not here yet, but it looks like we do have quorum online. So I will defer to you about starting.
Let's go ahead and start. I know Sandy's in a little traffic jam and she'll get here.
Oh, I need. Some full screen. Oh. Okay, we're gonna have to go this way. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Chelsea Shore Miller. I serve as the program manager for the Region 10 Opioid Council called Gateway to the Rockies Opioid Council, or GROC. Today is our February 23rd full council meeting. We are going to start with attendance and quorum. I did drop a link in the chat for our non-voting members, grantees, advisory committee members. Go ahead and fill that out. There's also a QR code on your screen. So do I have Commissioner Del Kemper or Commissioner Kerr?
I am here. Hello, everyone. This is Leslie.
Commissioner Marlin?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Commissioner Hollingsworth?
Hi, I'm on. Thanks.
Hello. Commander Atten?
Luke Parr here for Commander Ayton.
Thank you, Commander Parr. Heidi McCollum or Stephen Potts? Kevin Armstrong or Greg Demo?
Greg Demo, Gilpin County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you. Laura Weinberg or Chris Wolf?
I'm here. Could we make me the golden mayor?
Oh my gosh.
I like Wheat Ridge, but
I'm so sorry.
I don't want to take Corey's role.
I will fix that.
Thanks.
Janine Mariani.
I'm Yep, I'm here.
Tori Jantz or Troy Cooper?
Tori Jantz is here.
Thank you. Dr. Story or Michael Miller?
Michael Miller's here.
Thank you. Dr. Ryan Emily Cooper?
Present.
Thank you. Marie Larson or Elisa Witt?
Elisa Witt's here.
Thank you. Mary Berg or Barb Weinstein?
It's Barb Weinstein. Hi, everybody.
Sarah Casano or Dr. Gillingham?
Dr. Gillingham here.
Thank you. Janie Barker or David Jocelyn?
This is Janie Barker. I'm here.
Thank you. Kristen Heath or Judge Cindy Jones?
Hi, Kristen Heath here.
Thank you. And we do have quorum. And then I will read our non-voting members' attendance when we do our conflicts of interest. So we do have approval of our January 26th meeting minutes. I did send these as an attachment in the email today because I did add the executive committee resolutions to the meeting or the minutes packet, which delegated authority to the executive committee to review and approve application materials, including rubrics for emergency, special interest, cross-regional collaborations, and renewal funding mechanisms. That is specifically the materials that we will send out, not when people apply and review those materials. And then the second one was to review and approve the advisory and grantee handbooks with final approval to be granted by the GROC Council. Oh, I gotta fix these minutes because I think this one says Wheat Ridge too.
It does.
It does? Okay.
Just at the start.
In the body of the minutes, it's right. Okay. If I fix it here, then I'll remember. Hi.
Hey, Chelsea.
Yes.
As long as you're fixing stuff, Marie Larson is the community health specialist for Gilpin County.
Oh, I left that you too. Sorry.
Okay.
Anything else from the minutes?
I thought it'd be fun to see everybody.
We're here. I'm looking for a motion, please.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the minutes.
This is Leslie, second.
And we will vote by opposition in the chat. The minutes have passed. Thank you. I'll get those corrections done. We have conflicts of interest for today. I should just put this on the slide so it's standing. All of our Jefferson County voting members do have a conflict of interest because the Jefferson County Public Health Department, specifically Points West, is a grantee. Jefferson County Sheriff's Office is also a grantee. They do have an agenda item today. All of our Clear Creek County voting members also have a conflict of interest because the CHAT program and Mountain Youth Network are funded by GROC. All of our Gilpin County voting members have a conflict of interest because Gilpin County Sheriffs and Gilpin County Parks and Rec receive GROC funding. We have Amber Dower, Laura Wilkins are meeting support, GROC support. They are Jefferson County employees. Talia Rodriguez is for Jefferson Center for Mental Health. They are a GROC grantee. Rhiannon Strait is part of Omni Institute, a recipient of GROC funding for our program evaluation. Sam Wilson is in the room with us and may apply for GROC funding in the future. That's any other conflicts of interest. I'm not seeing anything. So we will go ahead and move on to our finance report. We do have a financial transparency dashboard that is now live on our GROC website under the grantee summary page. That is currently being updated with our 2025 expense report. A couple of notes before I turn it over to Amber Dower, our fiscal contact. Instead of individual expenditures to date this month, we are providing the 2025 expense report. Those were additional attachments in the email, and I'll put them on the screen. We are updating the financial transparency dashboard that should be done by the end of this month. It does not yet include the $450,000 in accrued interest. Congratulations, that is amazing. To date, we have spent only 3% of our requested funds. We are last in the region. This is not a good thing. I kind of got in trouble for this, but we have good justification. So we did have a facilitation change after the first call down. So Rhiannon was working with Stedman Group, was previously facilitating the council, called down our money. Then I started. And so with that change, there was a little bit of a different direction that was taken. And our first 2025 RFA that was facilitated by me, we did privilege rigor, so we had fewer awardees. We did experience a turnover in our fiscal contact. We switched Chris Habgood with Amber Dower, and then our legal team, we gained Carrie Markle. So that did create a 7-month delay in our contracting of our 13 awards. And then we discovered some weak grant making infrastructure as we were onboarding the new grantees. And so we did decide to pause additional awards. We are in fact leading the state in all 19 regions in our policy and in our infrastructure. So we are also leading in fiscal responsibility and intentional grant making, which is awesome. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Amber Dower to talk about the expense report.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm on my headset and I'm leaving my camera off simply because my internet is better when it's off. So yeah, we do. I want to, on that note, in 2024, we reported only $600,000 some dollars in spending, but in 2025, we spent $2,163,542. So that is a big increase, and I think we're anticipating to be above that for 2026. So even though they might have slapped your wrist a little bit, Dr. Chelsea, we're going to be in a much better shape. So hopefully they were able to see that as well. As we're looking at the expense report, so this is a report they like us to do annually that just basically summarizes the organizations that the funding went to, as well as the total dollar amount. The final column here, anticipated expenditures, those are the contracts that we are currently working on right now. And we anticipate most of these to be spent down in 2026. However, some of them will carry over into 2027. Jefferson Center for Mental Health, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Chelsea, that might even go beyond that. I can't remember. I haven't seen the contract for that.
Yes, that will go to 28.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So the data dashboard, that is the first item up here. That is for EUNA, which is the software management. We have spent $17,000. We still have another $17,510 to go for the remaining of this year. Dr. Chelsea, you're under the program management government oversight. 110,000, roughly 111,000 has been spent in 2025. We still have 189,000. That is also going to include expenses such as beverages for the meeting, as well as certain staff members who are helping coordinate the meeting costs. So it's not just Dr. Chelsea's salary in here, it's other things pertaining to administrating the meeting. Infrastructure and staffing, that is built out in a few different ways. We've got the Stedman Group, which was left over from 2025. Their contract is over. That was $42,000. The next one for monitoring is through Omni, and they're doing kind of the program evaluation of the different awardees. That was $15,000 to date. We still have another $105,000 to go for them through 2026. The training, the COAC conference, $7,500. We don't have anything else planned for that.
Oh, we do for 2026.
Do we have something else? Okay.
Yeah, for 2026, we did the National Opioid Conference registration for 6 attendees in June.
Okay.
And that was, I think, $3,750 that was paid in January.
Okay,
no more
so
out.
that'll be, all right. And is that in the cost plan that we already submitted with the state? That'll be for
No, because I can't
2026.
do an
so-
amendment until next month.
Okay, don't worry about it. So this is for 2025, not for 2026. So we'll report that next year. So that's okay. Also in 2025, Resilience 1220, we paid them about $33,000 out of their $343. I need to make my screen bigger. I cannot find my glasses, so I'm struggling to read my numbers here. Okay, Advocates for Recovery. In 2025, we paid them $315,000. We still have another $315,000 to go for their contract. Monarch Recovery Services, that was the house that was purchased for them. So we spent that entire contract amount, $1,224,000. And they'll still be reporting their program services, but we will not be paying them any other financials. Let's see, Clear Creek County Government, $180,000 has been paid to date. We still have another $1,439,000 to go. And I believe that one goes through 2027.
Yes.
And then the final expense that we have for 2025 was CChat, $218,000. And that contract was closed out in 2025.
So chat is on here twice because this is their first award that went from mid 24 to mid 25. And then this is part of their renewal, which was mid 25. And then this is the rest of their 2-year contract. That's why it's showing up twice. We did change how they were categorized in cost from their first award to their second award, because it just better matched what that program was about. And then we did submit, thank you so much, Amber. We did submit this as an additional explanation, is that this is what our original strategic plan looked like at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025. The first step in revising our strategic plan was aligning the language with Exhibit E and cost. Not everything had a 1-to-1 match, so I did use some holding things like the general category until I met with the advisory committee and the executive committee to get some history on what Exhibit E item best match. Our budget is fluid, meaning just because we assign money to this area does not mean that we are committed to that. We can move the money at any point in time if we have logical reason. So when you're looking at the dollar amounts in the yellow cells, these are things that we do not yet have funding for. That totals up to, this is so hard to do, like from this side. Almost $7 million in unspent funds. Those are allocated within Exhibit E in our strategic plan, but they are not obligated to anything. This does not include the $450,000 of accrued interest, which we will talk about later today, how we can start assigning use to that. And then we did include a narrative, again, just explaining why we have such a low expense rate, talking about our legal team, privileging rigor and the RFA, changing our grant infrastructure, turnover in voting members, how many active awards we have. So the state was satisfied with our justification and the direction that we're taking. So even though we have a low spend rate, they have asked that we don't call money down this year. So we can't take any more money out. We have a lot of accrued interest so far. But again, we'll talk about this more when we get to our strategic planning for expending the 2026 approach to 2026 funding. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns before we move on?
Did you say that, oh, hi, online, it's Commissioner Hollingsworth. Did you say that the state doesn't want us to draw down? So is that we won't get any more coming to GROC, or we just, can you explain that more?
Yeah, so how it works is that the national settlement funds are held by Brown Greer. And the interest accrued in the national settlement funds is what pays the national legal team. So we still get the money allocated to us, but the state won't release it to us unless we have it in our strategic plan. And because we have so much accrued interest and so much of our money is already available to us that we're not expending, they have asked us not to pull money down until we raise that 3% expense rate. And because we are holding the money, we are getting the interest, not Brown Greer to pay the legal team. And if everybody does that, then that legal team will start taking out of settlement money so that they get paid. So the idea is that they only get paid with the fund money, the interest, and that we should not be calling down money for the purpose of accruing interest.
So will the amount that would come, will come later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say when we talk about our approach to 2026 funding, it will make a little bit more sense, but I think we would be okay to call money down in 2027. I think that'll put us on a really good cadence. That way we're not over accruing interest.
Thanks.
Yeah. Next agenda item, I put this in front of the GRACE, our advisory committee, as well as our executive committee, and both of them support, but I have a proposal for the council, is that I would like to request meeting facilitation continuity and strategic implementation consulting support. As you know, I am a team of one. I am the first person to ever do this job, so there are a lot of things I don't know how to do yet. Or am just learning how to do and trying to think of all of the blind spots to make sure that we stay at the top and stay as leaders in our facilitation and fiscal responsibilities. So I am proposing an amendment be made to the current Omni contract. That would be 10 hours of meeting facilitation support. And so that would be helping with the minutes and all of that documentation, running the online meeting room so I could facilitate the actual meeting or in the in-person space. And then also, most importantly, serve as backup facilitation in case I ever cannot be here. In January, I was locked out of all of my Jeffco systems, and they asked if I could pass the meeting off to someone else, and I said, no, it's just me. So they let me stay on for 2 more hours before completely locking me out and resetting me. But that does bring up if I were to get sick or get stuck somewhere for whatever reason, cannot facilitate a meeting. Omni is very familiar with the council processes, all of our documentation, all of our grantees. They spend a lot of time with them, so they can provide that backup support. We did add on 2 hours of strategic implementation consulting, and I want you to think of this as more of just peer-to-peer collaboration, because like I said, most of the documents I put in front of you, those are first drafts. Not a lot of people have looked at them, if anybody has looked at them, before I give them to you. And so having Omni, who works with several other regional councils, look at them and bounce ideas off of them, I can make sure that when you are getting it to vote on it, it is more solid and more thorough. So we used Laura Wilkins from Jefferson County, has been supporting our meetings since mid last year. We used her time card to get the 10 hours of meeting facilitation. So if we start on March 1st through June of 2026, that would be 48 hours or $4,800. If we look at all of fiscal year January, December of 2027, then we're looking at $18,900. So the total budget request that I'm asking the council for is 228 hours or $23,700. And this timeline aligns with their current contract for program evaluation. The floor will be open for questions, comments, or concerns.
This is Leslie. I put my hand up, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I think this is a very modest investment in making sure that we're responsive, that we're efficient in how we do this work. One of the things that we've talked about as a council is that, to use, I think, what's probably become a tired analogy, but does fit, you know, we continue to build the plane as we're flying it. And I think that Chelsea, you have done an extraordinary job in a position of one, and especially excited about allocating dollars to kind of help build that capacity, especially as we beef up our evaluation system and so much more. So, well, I know we'll talk more about like a potential conference, the third conference in a row and more. So I'm very supportive of this. Thanks.
I will just add my 2 cents. This is a consequence of us choosing to be very thoughtful and think long term, and I think it's worth the investment. Anybody have any other comments? I never want to preempt conversation with emotion, but I know a lot of this is pretty obvious.
We do have Sandy in the room.
Great.
I was just going to ask if she's looking for a motion. Would you like to make it?
Can you hear her, George?
Yes,
Oh,
I will make a motion to accept the proposal for facilitation support.
And I'll second it. This is Sandy.
Thank you. We will vote by opposition in the chat or in the room. Nothing in the room. Nothing in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone. I am so excited for this. And Rhiannon said, thrilled to be able to continue to support and collaborate with this community. We are too. General updates on contracting. City of Lakewood did start since last Monday. That contract is executed. They had an official 2/1 start date. We did retroactive that just a little bit. JCMH, Soteria Landing, they are still in red lines. So we did project a 3/1 start date on that. And then Jefferson County Sheriff's Office has an agenda item today. I will be pulling Mountain Youth Network out. They already started, but they will have an agenda. I guess they kind of have an agenda item today, but more coming on that. But we are doing great. Almost all of our contracts have started and are underway. So this is a notice at this point in time of Mountain Youth Network. They did receive an EPIC award, which is similar to their GROC award. This award has a little bit less flexibility than the GROC award. Their award term is still to be determined, and their award budget is specifically to be determined. I just know that they were awarded, and they will have a meeting with the EPIC team to figure out exactly what that looks like. So Mountain Youth Network is working closely with me. They will be submitting a revised budget, timeline, and scope of work to GROC, and we will review that in the Uniportal together. The goals of the GROC award will not change, just the approach to achieving those award goals will be modified. So we will keep you appraised of that when that comes in with more details.
Could you just say who EPIC is?
No.
What's the EPIC award?
Dr. Ryan, do you know what the EPIC award is?
Elisa does.
Elisa does?
Yeah, it's through CDPHE.
CDPHE.
Thank you.
Stands for Elevating Prevention in Communities. It's to form coalitions to work together on prevention initiatives.
Terrific.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, she didn't tell me. She just said EPIC award. This is a general update. This does require a discussion and a vote. So I did present this in January, is that Jefferson County Sheriff's Office did receive congressional funding for the exact same award as their GROC award. At the time of applications for the RFA, we did ask folks, do you intend to submit this somewhere else? They did disclose that, so there was no issue with that. This award is for biometric monitoring devices in the prison for people who are getting admitted into the prison and to do biometric monitoring of medical withdrawals. And so this award initially went to the state advisory committee the advisory committee, because it's not an approved use for law enforcement, but it's also not a not allowable use for law enforcement. We wanted to get clarity on that. The state said that funding could only be used as a startup cost. It wasn't intended to provide continuation funding after the startup. And then only certain vendors could be used for the monitoring devices, which that was already on the list. So I sent this back to the state asking if supplantation was a concern here, if we needed to rescind the award, if we could, because of the contracting delay with our legal team switch out, this award should have started in September. So to me, bumping the award to year 3 or 4 is not continuation funding. We would have already been funding year 1. Congressional funding would be years 2 and 3, and then GROC would close out the award in year 4. The state said all of these hypothetical approaches work for them. No one has concerns about us pushing our award into years 3 and 4 because they did get duplicate funding. And so now it's discussion and vote for the council. How do we approve braided and blended funding? Is this something that you want me to work directly with Jefferson County Sheriff's Office when they get their congressional funding budget, and then we come back to the table with those budgets? Do you have some strict rules on you want this to be 50 units only? I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion.
I'll just ask an initial question. This is a new program, new units.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And so the GROC initially approved funding, conditional funding, which would fund 50 wristbands in year 1, and then all of the setup devices and wireless routers that were not scalable. And then after their year 1 evaluation would determine if they wanted to fund 50 additional units for the initial 100 that the Sheriff's Department asked for, or if we only wanted to continue funding the 50 units. And so we had a conditional cap of this. With their revised budget, this is what the low would be, and then this is what the high would be. It sounds like they have congressional funding for all 100 units in year 1 and year 2, so they did get this full amount. I think they got a little bit more than this. So then we would really just be looking at probably this number for years 3 and 4. I don't know. We can get that for you. Eric Butler did say, as a reminder, our Jeffco team members will want to recuse from this discussion.
This is Sandy again. So I remember in the initial presentation that this was pitched as not exactly coined as a pilot, but it was new. And we did discuss helping them get it started. And then they have since come back and said that purchasing the units, there was a break point where if they bought the 100, it was more, I'm going to say cost effective, but it was some amount that helped them purchase them. So because we had originally talked about it being kind of a test time, I personally have a little reluctance in guaranteeing year 3 and 4, Because let's say that in year 2, they're like, well, we thought this would work, it's not working. So maybe it would be conditional on them showing their reports of success and need.
Yeah, we can definitely wait until we get the congressional spending budget and then see what they would be asking for from GROC and place a condition on it like we did with the first award. Commissioner Marlin.
Thank you. Is it appropriate to ask the sheriff's office a question?
I'll defer to Eric.
Or
Yes,
I
I think if you, as a board member, have a question for them,
Okay.
that would be okay.
How many inmates? Like, what's your average daily population?
I don't think we have anyone from the sheriff's office here.
Commander Parr, I am
Oh,
here.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm standing in for Commander Ayton, so I don't have a lot of insight on what the discussions have been. Our current daily population is usually somewhere between 900 to 1,000, although that can fluctuate a little higher.
Okay. Thank you. So I think based on that information, what we see here is basically an opportunity to expand this pilot if we see initially that we're seeing success here. And I would love to be part of kind of giving optimism around the ability to continue to expand. And I'm just going to say when we see success, because I've got a lot of confidence in this program. And I'm totally happy to have some kind of a condition around like let's make sure we know this works and that Jeffco Sheriff's Office is happy it works before we actually write the check a couple of years out. And so that's my take, and I'm happy to make a motion, but I again don't want to preempt conversation from folks.
I have a question. So thanks for not making a motion yet. This is Laura. I guess timing, the slide and the conversation has been year 1, year 2, year 3. It sounds like it would have started September. It hasn't started as of February. What would a year be? Are we talking, what's the cycle, I guess, of the funding? Is it truly you get it day 1 and then it's 12 months from there, or is it around a schedule?
Are you asking the cadence of the GROC funding?
Yes.
So
when you say like year 1, year 2, year 3, what is that?
yeah, so the cohort 2 were awarded June 23rd, 2025. They were anticipated to start September 1st, 2025. They had a 1-year or 2-year term. And so that would be like September to September, kind of a year. We are trying to transition all of our contracts to a January, December start and end so that we're aligned with the state strategic plan. Because we had a lawyer leave in October, those June awards didn't get contracted until we had Carrie join our team in October. And then she started pushing out all of our contracts, October, November, December, January, February. So we had some that didn't start until February 1st. So their year is like February. They're all on different schedules, February to February. So because this one hasn't started because it did have to go to the state and then there was a budget amendment, we had the legal turnover. Their contract will probably be like in April to April. Depending on what their congressional funding budget looks like, they were pretty confident that that would be starting mid-March. And so we could make them, that would be like a March 26 to March 27, March 27 to March 28. We could pick up April of 28 and then end in December of 28. I mean, it was a 2-year award, so we would go until 30, or we could modify the award however we want.
Okay, and that's really helpful because I guess I wasn't understanding that the timing, there would be no GROC funding for 2 years. that there is no more year one, I guess, initial pilot funding that would go out now.
Correct.
Okay. That was what I was thinking. It was be year one, and then the second year would be after the congressional funding, but it sounds like they'd go 2 years congressional and then there'd be no GROC funding until after those 2 years. And so that is no longer a pilot. It's a program.
Correct.
And did they get awarded the CDS last year in the 2025 round? Because I'm just raising it because the entities in Gilpin that have received it, they didn't get the money right away.
Yeah.
It took quite a while to get the money.
So that's what I initially spoke with that team about, is we can sign, our GROC contract is ready to sign. We can sign it now with a March 1st start date. And then they use GROC funding in year one. And then by the time congressional funding comes down, that would be their year one. But they don't want to sign the GROC contract until they know what their congressional funding contract looks like, which also makes sense because we would want to include this budget amendment in there. They also thought the money would come a lot sooner. They have to spend it quicker. It doesn't carry over. So there are still some uncertainties there.
Yeah, because if it comes later than they thought and they get no money and the program's not starting at all, we could be helping them start it until that materializes. So you're in conversations with them to
Yes.
get this.
Yes. I guess before I offer a solution, Under Sheriff Demo, did you have your hand raised?
I did. I just wanted to add a little content on behalf of my partners down in Jefferson County Sheriff's Office from a few conversations I've had about the funding for their units. If I recall, they asked for double and they only received half. But anyways, they were very pleased with what they did receive, and they wanted to expand their program going forward. So if that's an option, I know they'd be greatly appreciative of expanding their program for those units. So I just wanted to throw that in there to add a little context to whatever was already said.
And under Sheriff Demo, it's Commissioner Hollingsworth. So I recall when the OEM was rewarded, congressional directed, it took a while for them to receive it. Do you recall that as well? Like, I want to say it was a good 6 months or maybe longer before they actually were receiving any money. Is that your recollection?
It is my recollection, Commissioner. It was like, I want to say 7 months.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm hearing is that maybe GROC will help them get going if Chelsea hears from them that they aren't going to get the money as soon as they want. Because there's such a difference, as you know, between getting the commitment letter and getting the money. Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
Commissioner Marlin?
We've had similar experiences in Clear Creek with congressionally directed spending, and that I appreciate you, Commissioner Hollingsworth, for bringing it up. I'd be happy if the direction from this body was to just grant Dr. Shoremiller the flexibility to make sure that, GROC dollars fit in when they're needed under the cap.
Yeah.
I guess the question I have, and I agree, if they're not getting the money in March, I mean, like maybe they're super special and they'll get it in March, but that seems really positive view of how these monies get released. But I guess the question I would have, if GROC is going to support year one, and then they'll apply their congressional funding for the next years, does it have to be GROC does 50 units in year one and then like 50 units in year 4 or something? Or is there opportunity, if we're amending, to just do the 100 units if their congressional spending is also for 100 units?
yes, the council could motion today to fund a full 100 units in year one. Carrie, would we be able to like put in the contract if we did 100 units in year one, conditional on congressional spending? That way the contract can get signed, they get the money for the 100 units in year one. Then congressional funding kicks in. And then we would pick up, I guess, just continuity funding in year four, as long as we don't go over the $537,000 cap across those 2 years.
I think that as long as we have council's approval of this, we can certainly work on contract language to move this forward in a way that there aren't concerns.
This is Sandy again. I can't remember their full requests and their line items. Were they only asking for the units, or I thought they were asking for some other implementation costs?
Yeah, there are several other implementation costs. Let me see if I can pull up their budget really quick. I don't think going to the 100 units is gonna be financially the best option. I think just approving the 50 units to get it kickstarted. And then if they wanna use congressional funding to get an additional 50 units in 6 months when it comes through, that would preserve the GROC dollars, but still get money out in the community responsibly. Because then you also have to scale like the wireless chargers, the setup. This is not the right folder.
Was that part of their CDS funding, or was that only for the units? Or do you know?
I don't know what their congressional funding budget looked like yet. Yeah, so they have a lot of other startup costs. So this is the 50 unit budget. So they still have like the vital sensors that would almost double if they got 100. Reusable wristbands, that would double. And then year two is only 108,000 because you're just paying for the ongoing technology fee. So this isn't their original budget for the 100 units.
I just remember the wristbands were just a piece of the making it work.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull up their original budget.
From, not having details of the purchasing or any of the other, if we could build in flexibility, I mean, if there's an overall dollar amount and operationally it makes sense to do a bulk purchase upfront instead of multiple purchases over time, and we're still committing just $1 amount. I hate to constrain what makes sense for efficiency and operations by dividing things out over multiple years, just because unless there's a real reason to divide it over multiple years.
It's because it's capital. I think part of the issue is because it's capital and we buy capital. Now we also have more clawback clauses, money fund recoup. If we purchase the 100 units, but then in a year, 2 years, it fails, or they only needed 75 units, we bought that capital. So what do we do with it? Versus if they use congressional funding to buy that capital, we don't have that loss liability.
But we also don't know the text of their request for CDS. So if they only ask for units and then we buy units, then they wouldn't be able to use it. But if they applied for some units and implementation. So I'm going to go back to Commissioner Marlin's comment about allowing Chelsea flexibility to have some time, delve in, find out what's promised, timing, and then just allocate. I don't know if you need a number, to help them get going this year and not cause it to delay in case the CDS is delayed.
I would say not going over the original budget award amount. But yeah, allowing me that flexibility would definitely help things moving. And if I can bring it to the executive committee or the full council with timing, I would do that.
Let me see if I can summarize the conversation. We want to make this investment. We want to grant flexibility. We've got a lot of confidence in our staff to work out the details. It sounds to me like the right way, like the right motion is to authorize up to the amount that was originally authorized. And can we delegate the details to either Dr. Shore-Miller or the executive committee? Do people have a preference there?
I guess I have a question, Commissioner. Are you suggesting that we allocate the first year funding or the total for 2 years?
I was suggesting the total for 2 years, and it's because I think that the data is going to speak for itself, and either we're going to buy some devices that work really well and fit well into that system, or we're going to find out pretty early that it doesn't. And so I would just prefer to stay in keeping with the decision we made a while back, which is this is a really exciting program, and if it appears to be working, let's get it off the ground.
And then my response to your question about allocating it to Chelsea, I'm fine with that. She can really delve in and find out and then just report back to us. Are others?
Yeah. I mean, if there's already a total amount that was approved, yeah, has to stay with under that and the flexibility to determine the best timing.
Get it going.
Yeah, let Chelsea work with them, given that the uncertainty of this other funding and when that's going to come. So there needs to be some flexibility there to figure out when to start.
Commissioner, was that meant as a motion?
Well, I think now it is a motion. And so, yes, I just made that motion that I said a few minutes ago.
I'll second that motion.
And then so that was Sandy who seconded. We will vote by opposition in the chat or in the room. And then we did have all of our JeffCo voting members abstain from that. It looks like this has passed. Thank you. So I will work with them and report back in the meeting cycle. Next agenda item is that we do have some standard operating procedure amendments. And so as a reminder, our standard operating procedures manual is an extension of our bylaws. It's really the how part of how the council does business. So within the standard operating procedures manual, let me pull that up. We did add, I did take out all of the dollar amounts associated with each area of the strategic plan, the main funding buckets, recovery, prevention, harm reduction. And I did put a link to the current strategic plan, which is that Excel document that has the line item budget. The second addition was including how membership is decided, because every county does that differently. And so I have to go through different processes to get appointed members notified and keep track of that. So some of this is also my own notes of how how we do membership. So there are a description here of how each county does membership and the election process. The next change is on page 20. We need to rename the emergency fund a rapid response fund because emergency funding is not aligned with the IGA and MOU, but rapid response is. So on page 20, 15, 16, 17. Right. Oh, right here. That is changed to rapid response. And then we also added what is not allowed in rapid response. So that would be supplantation. And then this will link to the state's guidance on defining supplantation is not an approved purpose. So folks can read through that. We also added some processes right here. So the applications are, and I want to call this a tentative process. We still might have too much of an influx to manage. But applications would be due in the grant portal EUNA the first of the month, and we'll cap it out at only the first 10 get reviewed. They will be preliminarily scored by the program manager. Those scores will be reviewed on the first Thursday of the month with the advisory committee, who will make a recommendation to continue in the review process, or if the score did not meet threshold, then abandon the application. That will get passed on to the executive committee, who will then determine if the scoring is justified or if it needs to be continued to be scored by the executive committee. The scores from the executive committee would be due on the third Monday of the month, and then the application would be discussed with the full council on the fourth Monday of the month. This could lead to a lot of applications. I'm hoping that we ask the appropriate questions in our application prompt, that it keeps it very manageable. And we can always revise this process or revise the application prompts as we need to make sure that that stays rigorous. And then I also added in a policy for the rapid response fund. The state or the COAG is considering how these types of funds align with the national MOU, and they need to be tied to a specific purpose in the 2-year strategic plan. If not expensed down within 2 years, then are we compliant with our plan? That's something they're exploring. This policy, I think, protects the GROC interest in maintaining a small fund ready for immediate release around strict Exhibit E compliance. I also noted here that we would not exceed 5 to 10% of our total annual allocation, or we would redirect it to the accrued interest funds, which is not monitored by the state. That does not have to go in our 2-year strategic plan. So I think this is a very solid plan to protect our rapid response fund. Next change is going to be, we added the funding mechanism cross-regional collaborations on pages 20 to 21. That would be right here. The most important part is the eligibility criteria for this. They would have to be one of the 19 participating local governments in Region 10. So I think about like the city of Blackhawk, they don't have a lot of money allocated to them. They donate it all to the regional council. But let's say they really wanted to get Narcan vending machines. They would come to the regional council outside of the RFA, and they could get funding for that if the council approved that application. Or they would have to be another ROAC, Regional Opioid Abatement Council. So we're talking about like that Sober Living Collaborative with Region 8, Adams County, where some type of matching award would be expected. So again, very strict eligibility criteria for the cross-regional collaborations outside of the traditional RFA, RFP. We changed the name from special interest projects to just special projects. I also included eligibility criteria here for people in the room. They would have to meet at least one of these eligibility criteria. have previously applied to GROC for funding through the general RFA and received an invitation from GROC to reapply through this mechanism. That's exactly what happened with JCMH Soteria Landing. It was a full capital investment. We don't think we were asking the appropriate questions in our general RFA application prompt. So we wanted to ask more targeted questions to the type of capital investment that it was. I'm still thinking through of whether capital only investments should go through the general RFA. I don't know if that's the most appropriate mechanism for them, but I still want to think through unintended consequences and implications of those before I make a formal suggestion to the council. I think allowing this for capital projects to go through the RFA, and then we say we like it, but we want to ask more rigorous questions, more individualized questions, we can send them here. It is a purely capital only investment. There's not a lot of these. These are very big. We do want special questions for this. Or it is a tailored special project initiated by the GROC Council, the advisory committee, or grantees where justification for not using a sole source is required in the proposal prompt. The sample application we're using for special projects fits this criteria right here. So that's a way that we can test out the eligibility criteria here. And those are all of the amendments in the SOP. The advisory committee and the executive committee did dive into these and reviewed them and approved them, but only the full council has delegation to accept these. The floor is open for comment.
Well, I'll lead off. I think this is in a really great place, and I have no comments. Thank you so much. What a journey.
We discussed it pretty thoroughly in the executive, and so I feel like it's really great where it's at. I was just hoping maybe some other people read through it and caught something that they want to ask about, but we seem to have a quiet group again today.
I don't have any comments on the changes. I'm just really always appreciative when there's a glossary of terms or definitions for all of the acronyms and special terms. It's very helpful.
Chelsea, you looking for a motion to approve these changes?
Yes, there's no other comments.
All right. Well, barring any other comments, going once, going twice, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the changes that Chelsea has reviewed with us.
I'll second. It's Laura.
Thank you. We'll vote by opposition in the chat and in the room. I'm not seeing any in the room. I'm not seeing any in the chat, so I will go ahead and unhighlight these as accepted and then upload this to the GROC website as the most up-to-date version of our SOP. And then last kind of big thing that we have today is I was calling it RFA Cohort 3 Brainstorm, but I'm going to switch the name to something a little bit more appropriate of Approach to 2026 Funding. And so in your meeting materials packet, there is this supplemental documentation that's in there. In 2026, GROC is strategically implementing the AUNA portal to streamline the application, review, and post-award funding management, as well as grant administration processes. This transition positions the council to operate in the following funding cadence. General RFA funding in odd numbered years, that would be 25, 27, 29, 31. Targeted supplemental funding in even numbered years, so that would be like the special projects, cross-regional collaborations, rapid response funding, sole source funding, and the even number years, which is aligned with the biannual summit to incorporate strategic input into revisions of the upcoming 2-year strategic plan submitted to the state or the COAC, the Colorado Opioid Abatement Council. So if we do our summit in this year, October of 2026, our next strategic plan is going to be for calendar year 2027, calendar year 2028. So in big calendar year 2027, when we start that new strategic plan, that would be that big general RFA. And then in 2028, we go back to those smaller, more targeted supplemental fundings, possibly even a much smaller RFA, like just treatment or like just recovery. And then we have our summit at the end of that even year to revise the strategic plan that would happen for 2029 and 30. Trying to scroll on the wrong computer. The approach does align with the state's 2-year strategic plan cycle, and it shifts award start dates to a clean January-December calendar year, which is also aligned with the settlement allocation release calendar. Establishing this cadence also supports sustainable infrastructure development, recognizing that funding alone does not create meaningful impact or systemic change. So the funding timeline looks something like this. On March 9th, the executive committee will be doing their user onboarding for EUNA, and then they will score a sample application to test the rubrics of do they like this rubric or not. Between March 9th and March 16th, I will go over the back end with the EUNA implementation team of what do those scores look like, what are the different filters and separations we can do for that. We will debrief that process on March 23rd and talk about the application prompts and rubrics. EUNA will build out all of the application prompts and rubrics in April, with all of those supplemental funding mechanisms opening mid to end April. In May, the council will review policies around the supplemental funding mechanisms, especially I think that rapid response one is the one that we're playing with the most. Between June and July, we do have 2 applications or 2 grantees that have 1-year contracts that need to go through a renewal process. And so they will, again, user test from an applicant perspective, the EUNA portal and the application prompts. All of the voting members will score those 2 applications to test the EUNA platform again in August. And then on August 24th at the council meeting, we will have group discussion of those renewal applications and decide if we want to fund them. We are not going to make them like a 12-month contract. It's going to be more, I think, like a 15 and 16-month contract or a little over 2 years. That way we can start that transition to the January-December calendar year. September through November, they will be contracting. In September, the council meeting will be used to debrief the EUNA review process. In October, we open, the state conference is also going to be in September this year. In October, the state releases their infrastructure award, and you have to be a ROAC or a government entity to apply. So we will host a letter of intent where people can submit their letter of intent to apply for the infrastructure award. We will review that at the biannual summit to see who we want. Oh, never mind. We have our summit in October. In November, we will review the letters of intent to see if we want to apply on behalf of any of those letters of intent. Those applications will be due to the state in January. The people who do the LOIs, they facilitate that application. I just oversee that we are written into it, how we agree to being written into it. And then we facilitate the sub-awardee agreement. And then we make sure that they do all of their quarterly reporting and invoicing to the state. We will finalize our strategic plan based on conversations from the summit. And then December, we will review and finalize the calls for funding. And then January 1st, that would be our target award start date for the renewals to align with the state calendar. all of this would lead to the 2027 timeline. We will do a letter of intent window for the month of January. This rubric is literally advanced or not advanced. It's very sophisticated. To keep reviews manageable, if we invite 16 letters of intent to full application, that would be 3 full applications per voting member to review. If we did the top 20 invited to full application, that would be 4 full application reviews per voting member. The application window would be March to April. I would do initial application sorting the first 8 days of May. The first 2 weeks, or 9th to the 23rd of May, you would do individual scoring in a unit. This is quantitative. At the May 24th council meeting, we would use group consensus. So like everyone who reviewed the Advocates for Recovery application would come together and they would mitigate their scores to see what applications advanced to group discussion or not. We would do groups 1 through 5 or 1 through 4, depending on, again, if we did 16 or 20 applications, we'd only want 50% of that to go on a group discussion. End of July council meeting, we do that final, like these are all of our finalists. How do they fit into the budget? Do we have enough to fund everyone? Do we want to conditionally fund awards? And then we would have a contracting period of August to December. You would get off in August for sure. I would give that to you. And then that would start that January 1st, 2028 start date. So this is our big approach to funding. Any questions? That was long. I'm sorry.
Chelsea, and this is Sandy again. I just want to say thanks because I think that this approach evens out the work of the council, so it's not intense every year. It also, like all these different, the rapid response and the special projects, they're all ways to get money out the door to people that need them. So it's a broader way to do it without going through the whole intensive process. And I think that you're listening to like when funding goes out so that it matches the agency or jurisdiction's funding decisions as well. I just think it all fits together in a really great way. It's a really nice package. So thanks for all your work on that.
Thank you so much. We'll go Leslie and then George.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. I wanted to thank you as well. This is a really comprehensive overview. And I wondered if you could share a little bit more about how our timeline and that has now been adjusted, I think for all of the right reasons, as Commissioner Hollingsworth pointed to, compares with other regions and how they're tackling this work. Thanks.
No one really has a timeline. I might pull Rhiannon in on this because she works with more ROACs. I think no one has a projected timeline like this yet. Everyone's still trying to figure out if they do funding every year, if they want to do it biannually, if they want to do it kind of like as needed. I think people are still developing their timelines. Rhiannon, do you have anything to add?
Hi, can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Y'all are so ahead of the curve with this much intentionality in not only your general RFA funding, but carving opportunities for the various other funding approaches or mechanisms that Dr. Chelsea has walked you through. At least to my knowledge yet, nobody has thought this far out. I do think there are a lot of folks who initially planned to try to do an RFA or RFP, that type of thing, on an annual basis, and are quickly finding out the feasibility of the contracting period and all of the nuance involved in funding each of these very unique programs. So folks who were trying to do it more quickly are starting to slow it down. And folks who were taking a little bit more time are now starting to feel a little bit panicked and trying to speed it up. So all of this to say, I really like the odd and even approach. And I think despite where we started this meeting by saying, oh no, we have to spend down our money more quickly, this is a really nice balance of urgency and intentionality across all of the different ways that you can get money out the door. And then I will also have to say, Dr. Chelsea, did I answer your question? I want to make sure I
Yes.
was
Yeah.
tracking. Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah, I think
And
the
if folks have like you go.
go ahead.
I'll
I was
get out of the
gonna
way.
say, I think folks are learning like we are grant makers, and that's a new paradigm for a lot of people to think of themselves. They're used to thinking of themselves as procurement because that's what counties do or that's what cities do is they procure. They're not grant makers. And so the infrastructure needed for grant making is very different than what's needed for procurement. And folks are starting to find out that that procurement model isn't working. And so how do they become grant makers? I think that's where a lot of folks are at right now.
Only other thing I would want to add is the challenge that community involvement and making sure that we're including voices with lived experience and people in recovery and people doing the work, that has been a challenge in a kind of stereotypical procurement landscape. And so this approach, I think, is it really honors community first funding. And now I'm putting my opinion hat on, but I really appreciate that part of this approach.
Thank you. Commissioner Riley.
That is a wonderful segue to my comment. Ditto to everything that's been said. Y'all know my perspective on this timeline, and I'm in a solution-oriented space today. I think a way to enhance this is to add in the even numbered year some kind of a check-in with service providers in this space. I think this year it makes a lot of sense to do it post-session because of we all know that the legislature may create some need as they take almost $1 billion out of their investments across the state. So I think what do you think, Dr. Shore Miller, about adding as part of this biannual timeline, like Q2 or Q3 survey to service providers about like what are your needs, what's going on, that can kind of help us work towards the conference and fit into a structure, and then more specifically this year really give us a sense of whether there's emergent need.
Dr. Chelsea, do you mind if I jump in? I think it can help.
Yes.
Okay, so Omni, as your evaluators, already have this on our radar, the importance of like going back to providers and community and assessing both what is being done and what should be done. So we already have survey tools that we use with other ROACs that are like, community tested. And so we could be ready to rock on an even year immediately with the survey, tailored to your specific region. But that would be a really easy, like Dr. Chelsea and I can just kind of streamline the timeline for how Omni continues to produce and distribute that survey. Chelsea, without you having to add anything or do anything else. It's already in our contract. You all are already paying for it. We just want to align on timelines.
This is Sandy, and I'll add to when we discussed this in executive, whether to summit or not to summit this year. That was a thought too, was that during the summit, that would be a great time to get feedback from providers about emerging needs or challenges, so we can do refinements when we put out the RFAs.
Yeah, I think we have not explicitly stated on here, but like Rhiannon and Sandy said, we do have those pulse checks built in for revising the strategic plan before the big RFA goes out. And then also doing the RFA analyses that I do, that also helps us determine like we get a lot of applications in this funding area. Should we do a smaller targeted RFA in the even year specific to that application funding area? I think by this time, we will have more infrastructure that doing a second RFA in the even year that is very, very targeted, like just co-responders or just sober living. We'll have the infrastructure built to do that instead of like our whole strategic plan. So yeah, not a whole lot of discussion here. If this is great with folks, I'll continue working with the executive committee on making this timeline happen. So we will pick up right here, March 9th, the user onboarding. I did include, because this was already on our agenda to talk about before we delegated this to the executive committee, the application prompts in your supplemental materials packet, so that folks could review. This will be a drop down. This is our strategic plan. Folks will have to tell us where they fit in the strategic plan. That will also help us cluster those groups. So based on that feedback from the previous RFA, the same people are reviewing the same applications clustered in that group. And then they have an itemized budget that they'll build out in a UNA, and then that transitions right over to their post award. This is for renewals, so they'll have to tell us how much money they have received to date. If they're doing a lump sum upfront, 1 year, 2 year, instead of a budget narrative, they have a financial sustainability plan. They do have to have a public facing abstract. The renewal application does have an analytic rubric. So question 1 goes with prompt 1, question 2 goes with prompt 2. And it's all a 1 to 5 scale. So it's a lot easier. And in eUNA, the score with the rubric will pop up right next to those questions. So you don't have to switch screens or go back and forth. And this breaks down, again, it is privileging a threshold of rigor in the score. Then we have the rapid response funding. And so the executive committee did also ask that we have a more like generalized application. So asking very similar questions across all of our applications. And so some of the difference between like the renewal application and the rapid response is that they do have to identify the emergency justification. And so this comes from our standard operating procedures manual on why we have the rapid response. They do have to provide justification for that. And then they also have to justify how this is not supplantation. So again, I'm hoping these 2 questions help prevent an unmanageable influx, but we'll see. We might have to add more questions. And then the rapid response, the executive committee did opt for a hybrid rubric. So an analytic rubric judges based on the question response. So it's how well can you write. The hybrid rubric is based on specific criteria. So this might, instead of looking at like just question 1 to answer criterion 1, they might look at questions 1, 3, and 5 in the application prompt to form a 1 to 5 opinion on immediate threat. So we're gonna try this one out. Then again, it has to have a threshold of 4 or higher for funding. And then special project proposal, roughly the same thing as the renewal application. It does just explain why it should be considered outside of the RFA. If we completely move capital applications to the special projects, we might build out some additional questions in here instead of question 9. Again, using an analytic rubric, so it's a 1-to-1 match. And then I did include our RFA general funding application, which follows that same format. We're previewing this. I just want to keep this application in people's mind as we're testing the applications, is should we continue to use this application? Do we have different prompts that we want to do? There is a big difference here of letters of acknowledgement are used to prevent community-placed programming. So if an organization is not yet in Gilpin County, but they want to expand into Gilpin County, they should have a letter of acknowledgement from Gilpin County that we intend to apply for GROC funding to put programming in Gilpin County. This is also like Jefferson County Public Health and Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. They applied for GROC funding, but the Jefferson County Commissioner didn't know about that. And so we want to make sure that we are balancing conflicts of interest. So you should tell your county commissioner, hey, we are applying for GROC funding, and they should submit a letter of acknowledgement so that none of our commissioners are surprised and we knock out half of our voting members from talking about an application. And then letters of support or memorandums of understanding, these should only be used if an application is talking about collaborating. And so like Gilpin County Sheriff's collaborates with Jefferson County of Mental Health for their virtual co-response. We should have a letter of support or memorandum of understanding that JCMH agrees to provide these services to Gilpin County Sheriff. That will get added into the contract. This should not be a random person providing a letter of support. There should be some financial exchange or agreement that needs a legal contract. That's a letter of support. And then if they have any other evaluation reports, that's optional to provide. And that is it. This is all I have for folks today. I'm getting you out 30 minutes early. That's exciting. Any questions, comments, concerns about funding approach, application materials? George Marlin has his hand up.
Yeah, I really like bringing the LOA process into our own application process. I think I can't think of a better way to give clarity to applicants that are in good faith, trying to serve communities and trying to figure out how to navigate interesting conflict of interest, etc., kind of thing. So I just want to really flag that as a brilliant innovation. And I want to ask my colleague, Dr. Tim Ryan, Clear Creek County, do you have any thoughts on that and how we might be able to improve specifically that piece of the process?
Are you asking like how GROC applicants can improve their letter of acknowledgement or letter of support or memorandum? And so like how would
I'm
they
really
see
asking
that from people?
And we can defer this for later, but I'm curious if there's any modifications to this policy that could just continue to build on that, layer in that clarity that's going to be so helpful next year. But it sounds like maybe not, and maybe we always have the chance to iterate, so I can just drop it.
We can. I just thought of this. We can include how we have like our letter of intent that would go through the UNA portal, and anybody can submit a letter of intent, and then the rubric is advanced, not advanced. We could do requests for letters of acknowledgement in UNA, and then I can just assign them to the voting members of each county of who they're requesting the letter of acknowledgement for. We could try that. So it would ping you like, hey, Dr. Ryan, there is an applicant requesting a letter of acknowledgement. And then it would say like GROC funding, we want to do harm reduction services in Clear Creek. Can we apply? Like, is this okay?
Yeah, I mean, it could actually, rather than be a letter, since they're supposed to be neutral anyway, it could just be like a box.
Yep.
Like attestate, like, yeah. So that seems reasonable to me, but I also, you were about to celebrate getting us out of here early, and I don't want to drag us into the weeds.
We have time for this, but this is what I said is I want to keep the general application at the forefront. And so if we think of these things, we can try to build them into a unit and start user testing them, or we can brainstorm ideas over the next several months. That way we can make it a very smooth, demystified process for everybody. So I'll look into building that out and start user testing kind of that for the LOA. That's it. If there's no other questions, comments, or concerns, you get 30 minutes of your time back.
Great. Thanks so much. Good to see you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Yes.
That's great.
And nice to be in person.
I know. I thought I'm gonna go see George and everybody in person. I like this.
I'm coming in person next time, friends. Before I sign off, I'm sad I missed on all the snacks and Sam in person over there. Nice to see you, Sam.
So remember, March is virtual, and then April we're in Gilpin.
Yeah, not as close for me.
Even better, more fun.
Yes.
Okay, I'm logging off. Bye.
Is at the courthouse in Central City.